matchup.
Yeah.
But I do want to get a word from Shiva and from Toby. Shiva, how do you feel about this? Because OG, we always say about this whole, the team that loses the first one always wins the second one.
Well, I think mostly the alliance that we saw this morning looked so much better than the alliance that we saw yesterday. So I'm thinking alliance woke up on the right side of the bed, and I actually feel like they're slightly the favorite in this one.
Okay. Toby, it's a bit weird, isn't it? Because with the Lions, we came in and we were kind of like, hey, they look really good. 9-0 up in a really early game, and then they just blew it. And then the second game, you're like, hey, they're having a good early game. Oh, they lost again. And so the expectation was higher. Then this morning, perhaps, our expectation was lowered because of that, and they performed better.
Well, I'm actually on the other side of the fence with OG. Like, my expectation was very low for them coming into this event, and they actually impressed me even more. So yeah, for the Alliance, maybe for both of them, they're actually quite low for me. But they're both actually looking like they're playing better Dota, and I still give respect to both of them. You've got a TI winner and you've got a Major winner.
Yeah.
That commands a certain level of respect.
Absolutely. Draft-wise, if you're wondering why we haven't really been talking about the draft, it's because, well, frankly, it's a fairly normal draft for the 687 in terms of what we've been seeing for the last 3 days. Lion, Doom, Beastmaster.
Yeah, I really like the IO and the Dazzle bans though, because we saw OG play that yesterday, and they really like to run those 2 defensive supports, and then just put, like, we talked yesterday about the chain of killing, like you can't get to the Dazzle, or you can't get to the IO because the Dazzle's behind that, and you can't get to the Dazzle because he's like at the far back end of the fight. As,
chain supports.
Chain of supports, like which do you kill first and which can you actually get to? So OG kind of feels like they're going to have to play maybe a bit of a different level of, or different strategy of Dota here.
And that's how they got beat yesterday, I believe, when they played against Liquid. Liquid was first round banning the Wisp and the Dazzle. Because I know that some other team was doing it. And so OG's only played Alliance, where they won. And then after Liquid, they got those heroes banned out. Or during Liquid, that is.
Nice Stalker.
OG's taking all the Vision heroes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very Vision heavy, good early roam. Gives them some good disable. They can be punishing of ganks and rotations as well that Alliance may do. But generally I find Alliance is more 5-man kind of style. So maybe Nightstalker will be ineffective later, but the whole Vision game for initiating can be huge.
Okay, second phase bans in, the Razor's gone, Ember's gone. Any particular targeting going on here, do you feel?
I guess split push with Vision on OG would be really strong. So the fact that Ember's out of the game could really help. He's a great Doom target as well, but as we saw in the game that G played him, it's very hard to even cast one spell on him sometimes. So even getting Doom off might be difficult.
Talking about the game that G played, Tinker also removed another hero that is really difficult to go high grounds against. If you are going to 5-man, Tinker is probably one of your worst nightmares because you can't really fight into a Tinker very easily.
I'd be really scared with a combo with the Beastmaster.
Exactly.
Like, you got Hawk all over that map. Like, Tinker BTs everywhere. Ember Spirit goes with them. You just get one other hero. Like, if Beastmaster also gets his BTs, like it's you've actually got a proper gang squad then that can just come off the back of one wild animal.
That does sound very scary, actually.
That would be a good way to describe Beastmaster. You're totally right. Yeah,
Challenges is something we've seen OG ban a lot. Is that? Do you feel like that may be a weakness for them, or is that a respect the other way around?
It's just Alliance. Ake plays a really good 4 position, and we saw it in their games that they played earlier. That they did a Chen tri-lane. It really wrecked what OG was doing for their tri-lane, and it got banned this time. And Enchantress is kind of the same vein, really. It's not something you'd probably want to pick up the first round. I think maybe Alliance did pick Chen first round in their set against OG originally, but now that the Chen was banned, I don't really see them grabbing Enchant early. They don't transition Ake as a carry or a semi-carry. It's definitely more of a 4-position space creator teamfight hero. It's a lot more likely.
Maybe they're just worried about like the invasion into their jungle or the pressure applied to the mid lane. Because Nightstalker, we assume he's actually our 4 position going into the jungle with Iron Talon, getting a little bit more farm.
That's true.
If he's not being assaulted, the mid lane's not being attacked. Like,
with that said, I don't fully expect that to happen since Crit and Fly usually do play defensive supports, but
so this has now
they don't really have those yet.
This has now become a 3 that we're seeing a lot. These 3 actually picked in this order as well, many times, or at least
Lion,
first
Doom,
3.
Dragonite?
Yeah, because they can. It's those 2 heroes together are either a dual support or an offlane support. They're pretty much good against everything, basically. Doom is always good. There's always some hero that you want to Doom. And then they can alter their cores depending on what their opponents open with. So now that they have Nightstalker Beastmaster, That's a decent amount of physical damage, especially with Beastmaster and Echo 3. So if they put Dragonite with Armlet on top of that, then he's going to be blocking lots of physical damage there. And he can take that initial burst that Beastmaster will throw out.
So looking towards OG, they haven't really given too much away with their draft either.
Yep, same thing. With the exception of Night Stalker, I guess. Vision is good. that's what OG has told us.
That's basically what they're saying.
That's a huge signal to throw out.
But
we like to see things, and you can't see jack.
It's still good roaming and still good early game. And Phoenix was a very good pick here, considering that the Doom Dragonite, this has been consistently done against the tanky strength heroes. You want to do pure damage that cuts through their armor, and also scales based on how much HP they do have. So very good against those two.
This is really the patch of strength heroes. I mean, there's 5 strength heroes into the opening picks here.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
I don't know if I count Phoenix, but
OG have played Beastmaster Phoenix before. That was against Team Liquid yesterday. That time they went for the Elder Titan rather than the Night Stalker.
that was that fun game where where Miracle got ganked like 5 times. And
Faceless Void as well.
yeah, and they just got so many ganks off. And they can do that quite well with Night Stalker due to the Void Slow. So it's a decent support pair. It's kind of okay during daytime. But just with like a Dive, Sunray, and Night Stalker right-clicking, they can definitely get kills with their support duo. Decent against Doom to zone him. Can be okay since Night Stalker's tanky. And then once they get Roar and Beastmaster, they can kill anybody. Doesn't matter who he is. Unless they have BKBs. That's the only way they survive.
I'm wondering what Alliance go for their jump initiation. Like, obviously, we just came out of a game with DK looking at a Shadow Blade and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, they don't have any like normal things like we saw with like Bat Rider, like normally with S-Force Puck, because you're picking up the Dragonite instead.
Yeah, I think Dragonite works fine as long as you get Blink on him. It is kind of hard though, because again, they do have vision advantage. I think Weaver's a good solution here against Phoenix. It's a little bit weak against Night Stalker, sometimes iffy against Beastmaster, but against Phoenix it's very good because you get an automatic Geminate attack, which is going to kill the egg faster.
We saw it in the last series as well.
Yeah.
Very dependent on items, of course, as well.
He is, but if you get off to a good start, you have a lot of advantages that most carries don't have. Like Envy didn't have to buy a BKB until like 4th item or something. 3rd item? 3rd item, I think.
Yeah, he was
4th technically, but 4th big items.
Against Deso.
Lance, Dragonlance.
Dragonlance.
So technically 4th. Yep. I wonder if we'll ever see like Echo Sabers on melee heroes as well against the Phoenix Egg. That would be a really good advantage. Because then you could basically hit 3 times instead of twice.
Downside would be getting it on a Dragonite and slowing down his progression.
Yeah, definitely not a Dragonite item.
Yeah.
The stats are good, but
unless you run like a 4-position Doom with an off-lane Faceless Void, you're not going to get it either.
Yeah, there's way better items, but that was just a random shot. Might be a good solution. Drum also works, just amp the attack speed of your whole team. So I would like to see Doom actually grab Drum no matter what this game.
It's another fairly regular pick with the Alchemist.
So are they going to ban AA? I think they probably do.
They probably will, yeah.
Maybe.
It would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, last time these two played in game 1, Alliance let the Husker through. But I don't necessarily think that's what OG are going to be thinking about this time, are they?
They have Phoenix, so they do have some heals, but I agree that it's not the best Huskar pick. It's kind of good. Cuts through Dragonite real well. And it's not amazing versus the Weaver is another issue.
Think we'll see the ban?
I don't think so. I think they should focus on, I guess, whatever.
There's also a Drow, of course,
they get the last,
which they picked against Alliance in the last game.
They could.
There's a little too much melee. They don't really make the most of her, and this isn't really a push lineup either.
Yeah, they banned the hero that counters what mid they're going to pick, because they get to pick last. And Slardar is not that hero, but Slardar is good against their other heroes. Very good against Weaver too, actually, because you can get vision of him.
I still would have been itching for a Void last pickup when you run 4 melees.
On OG?
Yeah, because if it was a Slardar pickup, you're running 4 melee heroes, just wait for the kiting to happen.
And
but it's still a question mark, like where does this Doombringer go for Alliance? Like, is it in the hands of Bulldog, or...?
I think that's fine, yeah.
It's still surprising to see that even though we see so many first bans Bounty Hunter, this time is just completely ignored in this series so far.
It might also be because no one's really dedicated towards the jungle. Like Bounty Hunter, like also will have a very low chance of getting a kill on the mid lane.
Yeah, they're also tanky.
So there's nothing he can leech in this game.
So what hero can OG pick to have a full strength lineup?
Can't be IO.
This is, by the way, the first time they...
You do realise when those questions are asked, I'm only allowed to have one answer.
Yeah.
Jakiro. Just kidding. That's it. Should be strength though. Looks like a strength hero.
Yeah.
After seeing that Ags upgrade and what happened with that,
it was cool.
I mean, he has the higher strength.
It was cool in that game.
Yeah, it's had its one cool game for the year.
Oh,
That's it.
hello.
Hello.
Strength lineup.
Hello.
Oh, we get to tick off another hero that hasn't been played yet.
Yes,
Alright.
indeed.
The
Okay.
Stampede's pretty cool.
Welcome to 687, OG.
Can buy
That's a great
time.
Aghanims upgrade hero as
it
well.
is.
The
Yeah,
Aghanims
that's a
give
good
too.
point.
It really
Make your
is.
team invulnerable for 4 seconds, basically. He's just always going to be there.
Yep.
That wouldn't have been a hero I would have predicted, by the way. Just putting it out
Just
there.
the 5 oranges in the team, that's all.
Yeah.
You're right. There's actually so many strength heroes. Is
More
Centaur going to buy an omelet,
strength
guys?
is better.
He definitely doesn't. It's a great
Centaur.
blade mail game, actually, for him. Return got buffed, I think. I don't know if that matters or not. Probably not, but it's pretty good
I'm
against
not sure
Weaver.
that's what
Maybe-
Alliance are going to be thinking about right now.
Maybe
Yeah.
in combination.
How do we beat return?
They're like, what?
We have to get a silver edge, guys. It's the only way.
It's to go with the
Ah,
Vanguard.
they go with
we
the
go.
Enigma for the mobility.
It's to
Okay.
go with the Vanguard buffer. Vanguard into Blink.
The other jungle hero with that. Okay.
All right, well, we'll go through the predictions. I guess we'll start with you, Shiva.
I have a really tough time calling this one, but I think I find it a very even draft personally. I think OG has maybe a bit of an edge. They just look so difficult to kill. That's
Very hard to kill.
Strength
Lots of
heroes.
strength. Lots of strength. Toby.
I'm actually on OG side of it. Like, also, kind of similar reason they're very difficult to kill, but also I kind of feel their laning phase is going to be a lot more stable, which will give them a better advantage going into the mid game.
Okay.
Yeah,
Finally, Purge.
I think both drafts are really good, personally. I think Alliance might get more out of Enigma, a good counter with Midnight Pulse, and they'll be able to greed that out. It all comes down to Night Stalker, Phoenix. How well do they roam and get kills? That's going to be what defines the game.
Big. Okay, thank you very much, all three of you. Let's head over to our commentary room, where this time we have a different set of men who are very much in love with each other. It's Capitalist and Blitz.
Paul, you know me, I have many, many lovers in the Dota scene, but this, of course, is my good friend Blitz. A whole strength lineup from OG against Midnight Pulse. It feels like just automatically you want to say that Alliance has the better draft, at least in our conversation, but delve into it a little bit deeper, Blitz.
Man, on the camera, I really can't see myself.
What?
Like, it looks like I have terrible peripheral vision right now, from this angle.
It's because you do have terrible peripheral vision.
I really do.
Have you not seen yourself?
All right, so OG. Okay, I'm a bigger fan of Alliance's lineup. I think that their lineup is A, easier to execute, and B, I just think their lineup has ways to deal with what OG have, like from a one-to-one counter standpoint. I think that they're going to find it's going to be a little bit easier for them to maneuver around the map. I think this Weaver is liable to have a really good game. The Doom, his job is a little bit difficult. That's, I think, the one downside is that Admiral Bulldog, there's no clear target in terms of who he wants to go for the Doom. But that's kind of rough if you want to look at this lineup.
Yeah. What about the Centaur? Like, what's the point of picking this hero? Because we, like, a long time ago when the Aghanims was introduced. Hold on. We are going to have a level 1 fight here. I wasn't sure if they were actually going to go for this one, but trying to deny the Alchemist from being able to get that bounty rune, but it's not going to happen. Alliance actually managed to pick up both there.
That's Sunray.
Taking a lot of Sunray damage, and this could be our first blood. As yes, Fly is going to be able to pick up that kill. They turn now and start beating onto both Loda and EGM, but it looks like Miracle's still going to end up falling here. A bad start for the Alchemist for sure.
I think Loda's
not
dead.
being able to get the bounty rune, but still, OG will claim the 2-for-1 victory in the end. First blood traded off, double bounty runes. Who really came out on top with all that?
That is definitely... I think that's an OG win. Even though you got both bounty runes, you get the first blood. I think that alone is worth it. But I am surprised that Alliance fared that poorly. I guess Enigma can't really do anything for you early on, and Bulldog was obviously at that topside area. But typically whenever you bring an Alchemist to a fight, he's not going to be very strong.
Right.
I think that Centaur, though, you were mentioning it before we switched into things. I think it helps when it comes to mobility. It gives you a lot of team fight. It's a gap closer. The one downside of this hero, of course, has always been the laning phase. But when he has an advantageous matchup like he does right now, Doom versus Centaur, then he's in a perfectly viable position, I think.
We'll be getting a little bit of help from Enigma from time to time, but Crit is actually, with the boots first, trying to be as disruptive as possible, playing inside Ake's jungle and soaking up half the experience. It may have an impact on the mid lane as well. Two strength heroes at the top lane battling it out with each other.
Yeah. Something a little bit... Oh, Bulldog?
Yeah, he's dropping
actually
lower
in a
and
lot
lower.
of trouble.
Yeah, he's actually going to go down, not expecting, I guess, that bit of burst damage from the double edge. Gets himself way too low on the Scorched Earth.
He just got stuck there. If you saw in the creep wave, I don't think he intended, obviously, to get hit twice by that. But, man, solo kill. And this is one of the worst possible scenarios. If anytime you're in a 1v1 lane, regardless of where it is, mid or otherwise, you're expected to do well or at least not die. That's the biggest caveat, is you just don't want to die. And in this kind of situation, you're just going to give one hero such a big advantage as a result of this death.
Fly casually with no HP whatsoever. We'll use the burn on S4. The middle lane just getting some harassment damage before I presume he backs out to base for his regen.
Yeah. He's got boots already completed. He's in a pretty good spot. All he's trying to do is keep S4 in a rough lane, and S4 is still doing okay when it comes to CS, still tops in his team, but and that beginning was just not very kind to him. And I actually like this build, by the way, that what Moon's doing. He's going to go for the hood first. I was going to talk about this. Typically, a lot of the times whenever you play this Centaur in the offlane against the 1-on-3, you have to go for the blink. It's natural, but when you're in a situation where you can get a lot of farm like Moon can, I think it's worth it for him to go for this, but he might be in a lot of trouble here as he is taking
He's got
quite
a lot
low.
of Magos, so if he wants to pop one, go for the stun. He's actually going to battle out. He's almost going to kill Admiral Bulldog, but no, the Scorched Earth gets him first. It's still Admiral Bulldog going down, but only after the kill on the Centaur. Moon slightly misreading that one and does end up feeding away a lot of experience to Bulldog there. I just want to add to the cloak the Infernal Blade, which is obviously so strong against many of these higher HP heroes, and Centaur is kind of the affinity of all things that are strength and high HP.
Yeah.
That's magic damage, right? So magic percentage-based damage, you want to mitigate that as much as possible. So
a lot of the damage from the side of Alliance is going to be magic, but Moon almost had the outplay right there. If he had just done one more click onto Admiral Bulldog, obviously he would have survived in that situation. That's what he was going for, the outplay scenario, but Bulldog kind of rights the ship. That's still 2 kills to Moon, 1 kill to Bulldog. But when it comes to the experience, it's going to lead in favor of Bulldog, obviously, since his kill came a little bit later.
EGM in some trouble here, being slowed down by the boar, and they're going to be able to slow him down even further. Fly gets that beautifully. The dive, he does manage to get off a Fairy Fire, buying himself a little bit more time, so Crit has to dive in deep for the kill, which means we will have a turnaround as Loda is able to claim Crit's life in return.
And in that scenario, it's going to slightly benefit Alliance just because it is a 2v3 lane. Getting anything out of that lane is going to be a success for them, but obviously up at top, they still expected Bulldog to be in a slightly better scenario, although Moon is copying a lot of damage.
I like the choice by Admiral Bulldog as well to get the a cloak of his own, and it's just the cloak aura from the small little creep. Crit coming in with his first real rotation during nighttime. Bulldog starts making his way over, ends up running into Crit here, but Moon not going to be there in time, it looks like, and Admiral Bulldog has just got to battle it out with Scorched Earth active.
Yeah, a wasted opportunity for them at top.
At the same time, he can't be too aggressive because Scorched Earth is about to fail, and Fly is coming in with the invis, and they're actually going to start going on him. The question is whether or not Moon's going to be there in time to be able to hit the stun. Body blocking up beautifully by Crit, and they will be able to finish him off. No stun required. Just a simple double edge. Get that big burst of damage.
Yeah, that was really well done by OG, as Admiral Bulldog just assumed it was going to be the Night Stalker, figured it didn't really matter if he was getting body blocked up, but Fly with that rotation once again, and this Phoenix has already paid off. He's already level 4. Your Night Stalker is a little bit under-leveled, but at the same time, this bottom lane has not been kind to EGM.
Yeah, the fact that Ake doesn't have like a really gigantic level lead over the supports of OG is pretty concerning for Alliance. S4 starts heading up to the jungle and backs away to his mid. Miracle's doing quite well there, 25-1, getting everything an Alchemist truly needs. Obviously, S4 a little bit better in CS, but it's not going to pay the same kind of dividends.
Yeah. This Dragon Knight, though, is doing just fine. He's got 2 levels of the Dragon Blood. Not going to do too much against the Acid Spray, but Crit's just moving around. EGM's going to counter-rotate. And like you said, this is kind of what you expect out of the Enigma. You hope that he would get a little bit more in terms of levels or farm. But
or at least comparatively, right?
Yeah.
It's more the fact that the OG supports are doing so well that the level difference isn't that impressive.
And a lot of that comes from the First Blood and the fact that he got that double kill early on, and obviously almost already on a killing spree, 2-0-2. Ake up at this top rune area as he's trying to deny Fly a little bit of this movement. At the same time, OG don't really have the best kill potential.
Oh, that's perfect. We've got a stack here for Miracle, and it's actually the perfect stack you can get. I think as an Alchemist, he gets the Satyr Camp, 4 different creeps, all of which you can benefit Greevil's Greed off of, and then the Mud Golem. That's 6 different units. Again, all Greevil's Greed.
Math! We did it. We added up numbers.
I hate you sometimes. EGM gonna be gone on by Crit. Just a small little poke as he backs away to his side of the base.
Yeah, and Moon has really dropped off from the original start that he had, where he got that solo kill on the Bulldog. Bulldog obviously still 1 and 3, but you would kind of hope your Centaur after getting a solo kill would be in a better position than this. This is just going to delay up his Blink Dagger as everybody from Alliance make this rotation mid. And this is a really common rotation just because you have a Dragon Knight. Like the mid tower is usually not doable, but with this hero, well within the realm of possibilities. And with this Catapult creep being here, going to make it quite obvious that some kind of rotation is going to come in as Crit already moves to the south.
Yeah, and it's kind of natural, like OG's playstyle of the Alchemist naturally lends him to start playing in the jungle at this point in time, but I think OG also have made the read that, yeah, Alliance is going to go for this, you know, attempt at a mid lane push, some sort of wraparound most likely, and they're just putting Crit there to soak up the levels, but not actively contesting, knowing that if they do so, Alliance can start that snowball pretty quickly and might even be able to win that fight and go from tier 1 to chipping down at tier 2. Crit going to be spotted out by Admiral Bulldog. Obviously still nighttime for a few more seconds, so he can easily get out.
You see Moon just TP back to base. He is going to complete that hood like we had originally surmised. And Fly up at top is just trying to get his level 6. Not really fearing Loda too much as he shouldn't. So far, everything is going pretty well for OG. They haven't really lost too many heroes. Only 3 deaths in their name. The Beastmaster is in a good spot. Farm-wise, just a little bit behind. And I think OG's lineup in general is okay with not doing the best in the early game, but with the type of lead that they have, it makes it even more successful. Like this team has like a very clear power spike when it comes to just their timings. As up at top, Loda makes his move.
Fly managed to get a little bit of distance away from Jerry, but that's not going to happen. EGM catches him with the Earth Spike, and they do manage to kill the Phoenix despite the attempted escape. And S4, I was wondering when he was going to come into play. He had an Invis rune in his bottle, and he was at the bottom lane, showed himself, quickly rotates to the tier 2 mid, and is going to attempt and a gank on whoever's showing there, but Crit's already backing himself up. They had the counter ward nearby, and I think he might have spotted something, yeah.
And they're actually going to drop another one, hoping that S4 might actually move forward. But I think S4 kind of game senses this one. This is one you just Spidey sense and say, something feels a little bit off about this situation. So he's going to reveal himself. And normally most mid players with that Invis rune would check a little bit further.
Like how Miracle just braves that middle lane. Not really a problem for him now that he's got the Armlet and Chemical Rage ready to go. He is a tanky beast, and it's going to take at least, what, 3, maybe even 4 Heroes of Alliance to be able to easily bring him down.
Yeah, they don't even bother. And that is kind of the downside of Alliance's lineup. You see Bulldog threaten with the Doom, but OG knows it's empty. He's not actually going to go for any sort of target there. And No-Tail just continues to farm. He's going to push down this tier 1 bottom tower by himself in a very good spot with his Beastmaster, already completing up that Necrobook 1, in a position to go from the Necrobook 2. And if you can get this pre-15 minutes, think about how strong OG is going to get all at once. You're going to have the Radiance on the Alchemist, you're going to have this Necrobook 3, the level 6 onto this Phoenix. It's going to be incredibly hard for Alliance to find into this.
You know, it's funny, it's like most of the time teams are going to be preferring Dire side, but it feels like OG is the one team that with their really defensive playstyle, we've talked about this before, right? They like to be able to draft themselves lanes that are essentially really hard to gank. They know how to play really defensively around their jungle as well. It's just one of those teams that is naturally just kind of like hard to push into, hard to catch out.
Yeah, and Moon just going to wait for his Blink Dagger. That's what I imagine the next item in his build set will go for. As Alchemist just continues to farm up, and not a lot of opportunities for alliances. They're going to go for another smoke. This is going to be one of those and one ganks where you hopefully go for an attempt on a kill, then immediately lead it into a push. And I think this is one they're hoping to find somebody so they can immediately pressure the tier 2 as well. Because you need to punish this greed from OG. Everybody on their team right now is farming.
And you haven't taken, besides that middle tier 1 tower, which was pretty much uncontested, you haven't really gotten that much control.
Oh, Fly's going to be the target here. S4 hiding behind the tree line, but
Gonna
this
try
is
and
going to be
lead with
such a hard
Ake.
kill.
They managed to stop the dive halfway through, but it's not close enough for S4 to be able to catch up. So they're just going to have to turn this into a quick tier 1. But that's the thing. No-Tail has been aggressively pushing out this bottom lane the whole entire time, knowing that his positioning is going to be beneficial if he's not actually ganked up. And even then, if he's ganked, well, that means Miracle's free.
Yeah. 2 reasons why that gank didn't work for Alliance. One is because of the aggressive positioning of No-Tail and nobody coming to punish him. You notice his creep positioning too. He puts the Hawk on the right side so he can see if anybody comes down. He puts the Boar on his left, so he knows at minimum they have to smoke to try to gank him.
Yeah, and then he had a Hawk in mid as well behind the tier 1 tower.
Exactly.
So he was getting so much information, whether it's from his Hawks, his Boar, or even just his pushing and getting information that way as well.
Yeah, this is a very good Beastmaster played by No-Tail, and he finds his team all the necessary info. On top of that, they see one hero at top, the catapult's pushing in. Fly understands, if you've ever played offlane, and he did for Secret once, that anytime this scenario happens, like the safe laner is pushing in with the catapult, and he's playing that aggressively, it's going to be the N1 gank.
Yeah. So in that case, Alliance really just aren't getting enough around this awkward 10-minute marker, where usually we'll see a lot of rotations and attempts at taking some map control away from Radiant's side, but they've gotten the mid tower and the top tower, but that bottom tier 1 tower, usually the safe lane tower is one of the first ones to go down on the Radiant side. It kind of opens up that Radiant jungle. Why haven't Alliance put more of a premium in putting some pressure on bottom?
Oh, that scan is going to hit them full on.
That's rough.
Yeah. I think the main reason for it is they just don't want to fight into OG's lineup because the Phoenix was able to grab the 6 so early on. They were trying to go for these individual pick-offs into freeing towers up for themselves. If they had gotten that kill on the Phoenix top, I guarantee you they would have kept going for that.
Yeah.
Just because of how much the Beastmaster was getting on the south side of the map. But
So
Alliance
because the laning phase went so well for OG, it kind of slowed down Alliance's pushing style, right?
Yeah. It's not only that. If you mess up a fight on the side of Alliance and you don't go for some kind of maneuvering play, which is, you know, kill somebody, take a tower, the game just kind of is sort of over for you. You're playing against an Alchemist who, during that entire time will farm. OG have 4 heroes that are fight ready from the get-go, and Phoenix at this phase of the game is one of the strongest heroes in the game.
So now it's OG's turn to group up because they have that amazing team fight. They don't quite have the Blink Dagger initiation.
I like this though. Miracle goes for the Solar Crest early on, and he's just going to be in fighting shape. They've hit their power curve so nicely here.
Yeah, as you were saying, right, it's like Alliance had to be able to get those kind of positioning plays, and they didn't. And now you're in that awkward point where the Weaver isn't quite ready. You know, you're supposed to go for the Link-ins and then build into a damage item, usually the Desolator, but you have at least a 10-minute window as OG to actually be the ones taking some map control, take some tier 2s, and boost up the Alchemist farm even more.
It's very hard for Alliance to fight into this because they don't have any natural ways to start up a fight. Even if they get the Doom off, they're going to follow it up with an Earth Spike. There's not a whole lot that they can do to really get up in there. They rely way too heavily on Ake's Black Hole. I don't necessarily think this is a fight they can take unless they can just burst somebody down instantly.
They're going to try. Centaur is actually going to pop the ultimate. They will be able to get the Primal Roar. The stun comes in on the Moon, actually holding long enough for Ember Bulldog to be able to get off the Doom onto him. And Moon is definitely going to go down here. Fly down to about half HP. Has to dive himself back. Head of the tier 2 tower. Loaded with that double damage. Now going to try and chase down No-Tail. Looks like one of these heroes could be sacrificed. He's still got the TP, but he's going to try for it now. The stun or the damage. Either one. They're both going to be fast enough that no escape for No-Tail.
That was a really awkward engagement for OG. You could see that they hesitated with half their heroes when they went for the Roar on Bulldog, and if you can't kill him in that, then he gets the turnaround Doom. You've already wasted 2 of your key abilities. They used both the Centaur ultimate and the Beastmaster Roar. They weren't even able to really get any sort of positioning going because Fly didn't want to commit with the egg, and Miracle wasn't really able to get up in there.
Yeah.
But Alliance somehow just take that fight for free. And you could see that they were hesitating positioning-wise.
Look at this. This Alchemist is insanely tanky.
Yeah, you wanted a front lane with him.
Yeah.
And they simply couldn't.
I was like, all right, I'm down with the Solar Crest. No way would have I expected a Vanguard as well. But Miracle is one of the King Alchemist players, and he definitely knows his skill set quite well.
Yeah. What an awkward position to be in, though, for OG. You could tell by Alliance the way that they were holding behind the tower. None of them really wanted to commit for that fight. But that was one of those situations where they're like, oh, guess that's a gimme. Bulldog just didn't die, and
yeah,
we're going to re-engage.
Moon Meander just getting maybe a little too anxious with the idea of initiating there.
I think
Especially
it was,
since he didn't have the Blink Dagger, it felt he was trying to force that a bit too much.
I think that's a... I don't think it's good to blame it on necessarily any of the individual players and more just of a team decision.
Right.
Because that was something that they could have called as a group and said, okay, we're ready to go in or we're not. Because if you time that fight perfectly, like OG go in with the egg from behind in conjunction with the roar, there's no way that Alliance can take that fight. Because the Phoenix is going to destroy that Enigma. There's no way that he's going to come in for that.
And this is naturally the next step, right, for Alliance at this point, because of the fact they don't really have that initiation. Yes, that top fight was a gimme, but most of them aren't going to be. They got to kind of shore that up a little bit, and Aegis would be a nice way to be able to stop OG's progression in taking these tier 2 towers. They're unlikely to try and force another fight against a secondary life on Loda.
Yeah, when you don't have the best ways to initiate, you're just going to get item heavy, and you're going to allow for free objectives. You notice that Alliance, even with an Enigma and a Dragon Knight on their team, they're not going for any tier 2 pushes because it's scary against the Phoenix. If you just sunraise you down, you get into an awkward position, you get roared, that could just be you giving the game away. So OG is just going to wait for their key items, probably get the Blink Dagger on the Centaur before they attempt anything, and go for the map control with the Night Stalker and the Centaur.
Classic trade-off of the tier 2 for Dire side getting the Roshan in their hands. But this is going to be the next true test for OG and whether or not they can actually force this fight on the tier 1 and claim it. Do Alliance actually still give up fights? I mean, they don't quite have the Lincolns on Loda.
It's still really scary to take fights for Alliance's side. Even with the Aegis, you notice Miracle's positioning, how far forward he is. He feels comfortable playing like this. And S4 thinking about going for the stun, but there's still a chemical rage on this guy.
Yeah, and keeping him under tier 1 tower, normally that's something to talk about, but with that Alchemist, rocking the Vanguard and everything else, he takes absolutely no damage whatsoever. Centaur ultimate was used to make sure that OG could get out successfully, and now maybe it's Alliance's turn.
This is still a really fun Weaver, by the way. 18 minutes in, has the Lincolns and the Treads. Loda being the standout player for Alliance today. Keeping up in farm with the rest of the cores, but still well behind that Alchemist who has an S&Y completed if he wants. He can turn that Vanguard into an Abyssal Blade, which would further allow him to take fights against Alliance's lineup. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say the one good thing about OG's lineup is, or Alliance's lineup is, it's still 4 melee heroes against an Enigma.
Yeah. No Tail with, again, the really good reads on how he needs to pressure as a Beastmaster. Alliance, we're kind of hoping to be able to push down that tier 1 tower, I think. And they're still going to try and do it with just Loda solo pushing it out. But him putting pressure on the top lane and forcing S4 back did kind of slow down that progression of Alliance.
Mid-warp
Dagger, Moon, thinking about an opening here, but he's got not a whole lot of backup. So he just takes away the off board.
OG are still playing pretty aggressively, pushing out the Beastmaster into that top lane, getting control of this jungle. And what they're trying to do right now, Cap, is waste the time of the Aegis and not hard commit to anything while continuing the farm. Just be efficient on the map. Don't just hide. Don't be afraid to take fights against Alliance. That is an extremely farmed Night Stalker, by the way.
Yeah, Crit's done pretty well for himself ever since Boots first, and he was just kind of being a nuisance to Ake. Him being able to have an Aghanim Scepter, probably timed around 25, maybe 28 minutes. That would be...
Go smoke if you're Alliance right now, I think. That'd be a good timing for them.
Okay, they're going to go for it while showing Loda at the top lane dealing with
They should go into their own jungle. This is 100% the play. Go into your own jungle right now. At least clear it out, make sure that the Beastmaster isn't doing any shenanigans. And they might even fight a free kill on Fly, if they're fast.
Oh no, the smoke actually pops, Fly gets out. The wards from OG, I mean, they've had so much information from the pushing of Beastmaster and all the vision he does with the Hawk, but also the really aggressive wards that they have laid down. Unfortunately, that counter ward in the mid lane is just shy of being able to see the ward between the tier 1 and tier 2.
Alliance really want to use the Aegis, and we talked about it already, how it is kind of difficult for them to set up fights, especially if they run into one of the tankier cores on the side of OG.
And you don't even have that big of an advantage without Weaver having a damage item yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Still a little lacking.
You can't really overwhelm them in fights right now just because of how farmed the Alchemist is and the direction that he's gone with his item build, but unfortunately for them, there's not an easy tower for them to take either. Like, this mid-tier 1 would have been ideal, but pushing against a tier 2 is going to be kind of slow, but it does look like Alliance want to expend this Aegis at all costs. At the same time, Moon just pushing out top, being really aggressive, and that's why I wanted to see them smoke into their own jungle, clear out this area, make it hard for them to split push top.
Right. Even so, Centaur, Moon quickly pops one wave before TPing back, and it looks like they're going to go for the defense on the tier 2 tower, or at least trying to buy enough time for the Aegis to take out Alliance, managing to claim any objectives for it. Miracle on the front lines, even tankier now. That SY picked up about a minute ago.
Yeah, look how hard it is for Alliance to just straight up push into this. Even with the Aegis advantage that they have, they don't necessarily want to hard commit to a fight, and that's why they went for the smoke, but this is kind of those, I guess we have to do it, second best option kind of scenarios.
Is the initiation problem for Alliance bad enough that you start considering the Enigma Blink Dagger, or do you think it's still just go for the more standard BKB? Because there is the Beastmaster Roar to stop it, even if he does go Magic Immunity.
Yeah, they still have a lot of options here. I could see him go for, you could decide to go for a Lotus Orb, go for a Pipe. I guess Pipe's kind of terrible.
You finish out the Guardian Greaves, maybe.
Yeah, I would kind of like for him to go Lotus Orb this game. I think it has the most applications. Lotus Orb or BKB, either of those two.
Miracle gladly claim a tier 1 tower, while No Tail and Moon are looking for the pick-off. This combination between the two can kill pretty much anybody solo on Alliance. They're just going to have to dance around them as much as possible.
Yeah, Alliance just trying to avoid fights right now. Now that OG are in full form and not having the Aegis, they're just going to go for the split push. Because OG's lineup was always easy to fight around.
Yeah. Alliance doing every little thing they can to make sure this bottom lane push is successful. They get the tier 2 tower. Loda was actually tanking up the tier 2 and popped a time lapse just because they know there's no way to fight right now. Just try and claim as much counter push as you possibly can and wait for that Desolator to come up.
Oh, surprisingly, that's going to be a Crimson Guard for Ake. I would have really liked somebody to build a Lotus Storm on their team. But BKB is going to be the item choice for S4. It looks like they're trying to go for the overwhelm them in the team fight kind of scenario.
Oh, hey, it's not a Desolator.
He has gone for the Maelstrom.
Faster split push, right? That would be one of the big advantages, or at least pushing the creep waves, not necessarily split pushing down tier 2 towers, but it's cheaper damage as well.
Yeah, up at top. They're just trying to push out the waves. OG, maybe they can set things up, and this is the combo that we were talking about. Crypt plus Moon. They have a lot of burst potential. EGM's going to lead, though.
Man, the Beastmaster and Night Stalker combination is such a nasty one to go up against. All of the vision in the world is going to be had for OG very shortly as just another, well, now 300 gold for Crit. He'll have the Axe.
Yeah, for a team that struggles to start fights, this has got to be pretty frustrating, just because they've got the vision game on you. Alliance still do have a lot of ways to win fights. If they get a Doom on any of the core targets, or if they can lead with S4, they really just have to blow somebody up. OG don't have that same potential to just blow somebody up unless they commit the Centaur stun onto somebody like the Lion. Everybody else on Alliance is so tanky.
S4, this is like his third invis rune this game. Wrapping around behind the tier 2 tower, hoping that he would be able to catch someone and they could get the tier 2 tower off of that. Not going to happen, so they just immediately swarm the tier 2. And OG not going to respond. They're just going to go for a push of their own at bottom lane. And Glit, probably just one defend top. But it's going to need more than just one. Alliance are going to keep going. They're going to try and force OG back.
That was a fake attempt to try to just get them off the bottom more than anything, but
and it worked.
That tower's still going down, though, and everybody from Alliance getting out.
Another objective gained for OG. Even if their positioning is now back at base, they're okay with that. An AC now for Miracle. Physical damage just isn't going to touch this guy.
He is really tanky, and he's going to make his entire team tanky as a result. And this Dragon Knight is doing a good job of keeping up in farm, as is the Weaver. If they're doing well over the other cores of OG, and they still have some measure of teamfight with, of course, Black Hole, the Doom. You can shut down one of the heroes from OG, but I think this Phoenix is going to cause some issues for Alliance as the game goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Percentage-based damage on both sides. But that Sunray's definitely got to be the real killer.
Yeah, sort of think at some point you're going to need maybe a BKB on Loda.
Yeah. Fairly common that the Lincolns is oftentimes just not enough for the Weaver to operate under.
Yeah, that's sometimes the downside of Weaver, is that he's just so item dependent. Normally it's never just the Lincolns that's enough. Then you have to commit a BKB. Then at some point you have to get a damage item for yourself, and the costs just kind of add up.
Yeah. You're supposed to hit this kind of like major peak around 35 minutes, right? But even then, if you start going a little bit too late, then you're also still rather squishy hero that enough disables will easily be able to burst you down.
Yeah. OG just content to farm up. Their team is getting so huge. They've almost got a 6-slotted Miracle at just 26 minutes into the game, and this is a pure fighting build. So he's ready to go online, go toe-to-toe with Alliance's heroes. Alliance, of course, just waiting for other items to come in. They got double BKB. This might just be their timing. Yeah, they're not going to get level 16 or anything on anybody soon. I sort of think they should look for a fight. They're not going to get much stronger than this. They could wait for a BKB on Loda, but that's about it.
They're having S4 be the frontliner for now, letting OG initiate on him if they want to. Obviously, OG, they realize this is kind of a bait. It's not really the hero they want to go on.
The jig
They're
is
going
up.
to try and get some information from Crit. He does actually run a little bit too close, and his smoke is pop, but now they found the opening. They're going to be able to catch EGM, take him out of the fight immediately. Now the BKBs go down, but who are they really going to be able to focus? It's certainly not going to be the Centaur. There goes the Phoenix Egg as well, and Alliance seem to be in a tough position. They're focusing on Miracle, but he's only just now down to half HP, and the Doom's going to wear out soon. They turn for him even more, but the Sunray is now healing up Miracle as it burns through Alliance at the same time, and sure enough, the Phoenix proves to be the problem card, and Alliance drastically lose that fight. And OG going to gain a major positioning win as they're going to actually keep going for the push here, maybe force out some buybacks. And they also have Roshan available as well.
Yeah, they only have the buyback available on S4, but without his Dragon form, I'm not sure how they take this fight, but Miracle takes this way too quickly. 4 seconds, he's going to have that Chemical Rage up with the AC already dealing that negative armor to that tower.
Even if Alliance do buy back at this point, they still have BKBs as well as their big ults on cooldown. Miracle going to be stunned up. Still have that Finger of Death to go on, as well as Black Hole, but OG, they're not going to be grouping up, I don't think, enough for Alliance to somehow be able to handle that fight. 5 more seconds till the DK is back up, 8 more on Admiral Boltar. I just don't think it matters. OG are going to be able to claim the melee racks and probably back out from there. Loda trying to poke at Moon. Yeah, he's out of mana, but he's also a tanky sucker. He's going to be able to sit here for quite some time before they finally bring him down. The rest of OG, they're like, that's fine, that's fine. Moon Meander dying, that's standard for us. We still got the overall win.
Did you notice what Moon did there too? He understands that his team is running away and somebody might get caught, so he intentionally turns his position towards them just to make sure it's a one-off kill. Because normally what ends up happening is you lose your racks, you get 2 or 3 kills. That kind of makes things somewhat even if you're behind, but unable to do anything off of that, and Alliance need to do something drastic. It's going to be the Roshan attempt. The downside for them is that OG might actually see this coming. They've got a lot of different ways to scout this out with the Hawk, the Night Stalker Aghanims, as it is just 10 p.m. in Dota land.
Crit. He sees the ward on the left-hand side. Alliance are going to be even more blind to this incoming incursion of OG. Hake's going to bounce outside of the pit, trying to stall up OG as much as possible as Alliance are full committing to this Roshan. It's about to go down, but now No-Tail's made his initiation, jumps on S4, and the Aegis is picked up by Loda, but they've already lost the Admiral Bulldog Doom, and now S4 is about to go down as well, even with his BKB. He ends up getting popped. Now Loda just has to somehow try and make his way out with the Aegis intact, but that's not going to happen. The silence goes down. And while he buys out his BKB in preparation of dying here, because Crit with the gem is always going to be able to see where Loda's up to, and time lapse not going to do anything there. A stomp from Moon will claim the mega kill streak of Loda, and now time for OG to potentially end this whole entire thing.
They did that even without their best fighter at the Roche pit and Fly at the Phoenix, and there's just no real way for an Alliance to take a fight. There's too much to go on the Enigma. They couldn't really push with him. In the fight before this one, you notice when Miracle just beelined for him, he made sure he did so under the protection of the Phoenix set. So no matter what happened, even if he got Black Bolt, it was going to get canceled 2 seconds later.
Now the buyback, immediately Hake is going to be the target with the Abyssal Blade put on him. He's, Crimson Guard, a little bit of heal, maybe. The stun actually comes out from EGM. Now the Black Hole goes down, but the Sunray's right in the middle of it, and it's actually hugely limiting the damage as Moon manages to stay alive through all of that. Alliance can't claim any kills and are just dying left and right like flies. Miracle, the tanky Sun, he just keeps going, man. Under tier 4s, thrown, doesn't really matter. He only takes a pittance of damage from every single one of these heroes trying to attack him. And sure enough, the GG is called from Alliance. Very convincing victory from OG once again over Alliances. Last time they met, they took this series 2-0. Now the beginning of this series, very clean 17-8 victory game 1.
This was, I don't think people are going to fully appreciate how well OG just moved around and gave each other information.